Oh my God. You know, it's one of those things that you hear how great they are, and you see in the price that means you'll never be able to afford one how great they are, but oh my God. Wow. My God. My first experience with DiMarzio I wasn't even really conscious of. They were just the pickups that were in my first guitar. But my first conscious DiMarzio experience was I was doing a short tour with this metal band, and my Music Man Silhouette had this 3 single coil pickup configuration. The single coils were not going to give me kind of the growl that I needed to play the type of music. And so when I went to my favorite little local music store and talked to my contact there, right away he was like, "You want the DiMarzio Fast Track too?" And I was like, "Well, tell me why I want the DiMarzio Fast Track too." You know, I wanted at least a little more information as opposed to be like, "Okay, sure, whatever you want." And he just explained a little bit. He's like, you know, it's gonna give you that bite and that growl that you want without sounding incongruous with the type of pickups you have in the middle and the neck position. And he promised me, he's like, "I have it in my guitar, it's gonna sound awesome. If you're unhappy, just bring it back." And sure enough, I dropped it in, sounded fantastic, and did the whole tour with it, and I've left it in the guitar since then. Steve Blucher and I were talking about, you know, which ones to put in here, and these are the 36th anniversary PAFs. And they, you know, what I noticed right away is that it still sounded like a Les Paul, but just like a little bit more so, you know, and a little bit more bite, a little bit more sing to them. And the thing I noticed right away was, you know, on one hand it kept the integrity of the sound, and yet just gave it a little bit more sustain, a little bit just better playing feel, a little bit fatter sound. I grew up with all the Guitar Player magazine guys kind of being my dad's friends and acquaintances. He was editor-in-chief, vice president, and I think associate publisher, for Guitar Player magazine. So as a kid, I got to run all around GPI and hang out with those guys. And once I started getting interested in guitar, I got to like raid their stash of back issues and sort of got pointed in the right direction early on. You know, my dad was like, "Oh, you like Led Zeppelin? Oh, you like AC/DC? Come check out Jeff Beck. Come check out Johnny Winter. You know, let's go bring you to an Eric Johnson and Joe Satriani concert." So early on, I was kind of pointed in the direction of the greats. Zeparella, that was the brainchild of our drummer Clementine, and she and I met because we were playing actually in an AC/DC tribute band together, and she and I were both kind of just constant students, you know, wanting to get better at what we're doing, wanting new challenges, wanting to kind of continue to try to take it to another level. And on the way to a gig, she and I were both wanting to play more shows and wanting to get more serious about it. And she had said to me just kind of off the cuff, just like, "God, I'd love to start a Led Zeppelin tribute band." I'm like, "Oh, well, I love AC/DC, but Led Zeppelin was even more near and dear to me." And I said, "Count me in if you ever do it." And she's one of those people where it's like, you know, you tell her that you're into something and next thing you know, you have a gig booked. And that was pretty much what happened. You know, I'm not really somebody who gets nervous before gigs. You know, I get focused, I get excited, and, you know, I don't want to play a bad gig, but I have never been so nervous in my entire life. I mean, Steve Morse is, for me, you know, one of my earliest inspirations, and to this day, one of my favorite guitar players. And he's terrifying. I mean, he's absolutely terrifyingly good. And so you realize when you get the gig, the first reaction is like, "Yes!" And then you're like, "Oh my God, like, I'm gonna actually have to do this gig." Like, I was kind of hoping I'd have this gig maybe after another, like, 20 years of woodshed time. And then you realize everybody in the audience is probably a better guitar player than I am too. You know, this is definitely a christening by fire. And it was for an instrumental duo that I have, an acoustic duo. It's called Lapdance, Armageddon, and 2 acoustic guitars, you couldn't really be more exposed unless it was 1 acoustic guitar. We played the 2 shows with him, and I realized at about 11 o'clock the morning of the first show that I was so full of adrenaline that I got really concerned as to like, what's it gonna be like at 8 o'clock tonight when I get on stage? And I was like, oh God, that freaked me out even more. And then I'm like, wait a minute. How much adrenaline does the human body have? And at the rate that I'm going right now, it's 11 o'clock and I am just full of adrenaline. At 8 o'clock, I might have depleted all of my reserve, so maybe I'll be really chill by the time I hit the stage. And actually, it kind of did work out that way. By the time I hit the stage, I was just so tired from being so nervous that I wasn't anywhere near as bad as I thought I was going to be. So I recommend that. Just freak out early if you have a early nerve-wracking gig.